Star Trek, The Next Generation, Starfleet Academy, Nova Command, Chapter 7. Cadet Captain Ron glared at her crew. She could not help that, not with her deep-set, slitted red eyes and their overhanging ridges of bone that gave her a look of fury even when she was asleep, but this time she meant it. "No mistakes," she said. "Captain Page will be here in a minute to brief us on the mission. Whatever it is, I will tolerate no mistakes from any of you. All of you seem to see this mission as a sort of game, but it is not. It's my chance to prove myself. You may not know that no Comoran has ever commanded a Starfleet vessel. I intend to be the first, and..." She hesitated, the slits of her pupils widening momentarily. And I will tolerate no mistakes. At ease." Jean-Luc relaxed. Tom Franklin stood to his right, Marta to his left, and beyond Marta, Roger Wells. Once again, Jean-Luc felt alone and isolated. No, Franklin was always ready for a friendly chat or game of cards, but that was different, less like a friendship than his relationship with his older brother, Robert. No, what bothered him was Marta's cool attitude. They'd never actually quarreled, but somehow their exchanges had become snappish and short, and Jean-Luc couldn't help noticing Roger stood closer to her than he did. "Cadets, attention!" Tabitha Ron's brisk command brought Jean-Luc's shoulders back, chin in. Captain Page entered, glanced around, and nodded his satisfaction. "As you were, cadets. You may be seated." In a crisp voice, he added, "Computer, lower the lights and prepare the holographic demonstration of Nova Command Mission 8. They all found seats around the long briefing table. As the lights went down, a holographic simulation of Mars, its two natural satellites, and Bradbury Station glimmered into visibility. "Just to orient you," Captain Page said, "keep an eye on our location here. Computer, scale down." The planet shrank to a red dot, a curving yellow line showing its orbital path. A haze appeared, millions of tiny glowing specks representing the Asteroid Belt. Here and there were small yellow X marks showing the locations of asteroid mining centers. Jean-Luc sat near the red dot of Mars. Across the table from him, on the far side of the Asteroid Belt, a green circle glowed. It began to blink. "Locate the Jovian Lagrange Station Voltaire," instructed Page. "It's a flashing green circle. Everyone got it? Computer, lay in the mission track." Now a curved red arc appeared, skimming just above the asteroid belt, connecting the red dot of Mars to the green circle of the Jupiter station. "This is not your actual trajectory," Page pointed out. "Plotting the course will be up to you. Cadets, here's your mission. You are to fly the Ishtar from here to Voltaire Station, doing a Category 3 survey of all asteroids within range of your sensors. You will have limited fuel and a deadline to meet. Your job will be to optimize the mission to retrieve the most information in the least time possible. Your departure time is 0800 tomorrow, so you will have approximately 22 hours to plan your mission. Details will be up to you. Questions?" Roger had a question, of course. "Sir, do we have to navigate that far from the belt?" "That is up to your discretion, Mr. Wells. However, I will point out that the Ishtar only has Class 5 shield capacity. If I were you, I'd rule out a direct run." Roger sniffed. Marta asked, "Captain Page, you said something about limited fuel. Why is that?" "The assumption, Cadet Batanides, is that the Ishtar is a scout ship mapping an unfamiliar system. You've already done part of your survey, and you are on the return leg to your mothership, represented by Lagrange Station Voltaire." "Sir, how much fuel will we have?" Marta asked. "You'll find out at 0800 tomorrow," the captain said. Jean-Luc could not see his face, but he had the feeling that Page was smiling. Jean-Luc's mind worked furiously. Not knowing the precise amount of fuel available meant that he would have to prepare more than one course trajectory and... "Sir," Cadet Captain Ron said, I've heard that Nova crews occasionally run into surprises. Is that a question, Cadet Ron? No, sir, the Comoran said, her voice slow. Very well, I'll leave you to your planning. Terminate display, room lights full. As the lights came up and the hologram faded, Captain Page's thin face materialized across the table from Jean-Luc. It wore a serious expression. Let me say one last thing, cadets. You have worked hard, and I wish you well. But remember, Starfleet will not be riding herd on you. If you get yourselves into trouble, it will take several minutes to half an hour to get a craft to you. I don't like crews that get in trouble, and you would not like the kinds of ratings such a crew would receive. Watch yourselves and be prepared for anything. That is all. An hour before launch, and on the cramped bridge of the Ishtar, Roger was all but yelling at Jean-Luc. This is idiotic! You're going to sink us all! Picard, these courses are totally unacceptable. Jean-Luc's face was red with anger. Mr. Wells, I have plotted a dozen different courses, allowing for as little as 25% fuel and for as much as 80%. I'll fine-tune them as soon as our instruments are activated, and... You're taking us outside of the belt, Roger snarled. We could just as easily penetrate the belt and double the range of our survey. We'll be within the fringes of the asteroid belt, Jean-Luc said, resisting the urge to yell. If we took a more direct trajectory, we'd have to divert more power to the shields. He's a coward, Roger said, turning to the other cadets as if for reinforcement. Marta looked away, embarrassed. Tom Franklin was scowling. Tabitha Ron's alien expression was unreadable. Jean-Luc turned to her. Captain Ron, I will leave it up to you. Should I replot now, or would it be better to wait and get a precise reading when the ship powers up? The reptilian eyes flickered from Jean-Luc to Roger and back. Tabitha licked her lips with a pointed black tongue. For a moment, Jean-Luc thought she wasn't going to respond, but at last she said slowly, Cadet Picard is correct, number one. We will wait for ship power. Roger threw his arms up in the air and turned his back on Jean-Luc. All right. If I'm the only one who wants to get a decent grade on this, number one, I will want a full statement of mission and action plans for transmission as soon as possible. Please prepare to format such a document. Tabitha Ron hesitated again and then sank into the captain's seat. With some muttering, Roger settled into the exec seat beside her. He picked up a data pad and furiously began to program it, preparing a standard mission statement template. Once they were actually underway, he would transmit the information back to Starfleet. I want to check the main tractor array power junction, Marta said. Jean-Luc, will you help me? Sure. Anything to get out of that cabin for a moment, and the thought that he would have to spend 5 or 6 hours cramped up with the others, and especially with Roger. Jean-Luc stopped worrying about it. He made sure that his science station was secure, then followed Marta down the narrow companionway. Halfway back to the small transporter array, she removed a deck plate and exposed a power junction. He knelt beside it. I'm not sure you can tell anything until we're off station power, he said. I didn't really want to check it, Marta whispered back. That was just an excuse. Jean-Luc took a deep breath. Cadets on training missions did not wear perfumes, but Marta had washed her hair in something that smelled rosy and pleasant. Oh? He allowed himself a crooked smile. Roger is really being foolish, isn't he? Her dark eyes looked directly into his. Roger? What are you talking about? He swallowed. Oh. Well, he was so unpleasant when he was arguing about my navigation. I assumed I'm concerned about Tabitha, not about some silly macho competition between you and... Macho competition? What are you talking about? Jean-Luc was stung. He's the one acting like an idiot, not me. Disgust flickered in those dark eyes. Really? I'd call it a pretty close contest myself. She bent over the power junction and plugged a Jeffries circuit tester in here and there. It verified only that the junction was capable of holding up under full power, plus a tolerance of 50%. They already knew that. Jean-Luc took a deep breath. What about Tabith? If you're just going to argue... No. He touched her shoulder and she looked up. With a shock, Jean-Luc saw that she had tears in her eyes. You're really upset, he said. Look, I'm sorry. What did you want to tell me? Can't you tell there's something odd about her? With a frown, Jean-Luc said, Odd? I don't know. I've never had much to do with Comorans. They're so standoffish. Well, I've been close to her for the last few days. We went over every plate and circuit of the Ishtar. She's sharp, Jean-Luc, and she's quick. Comoran reaction time is 50% greater than human. So? Marta jerked her chin toward the cabin. She's slow. Something's wrong with her this morning. She's just not herself. Jean-Luc grinned. I doubt any of us are. She's just jumpy about doing well on the trip. Think about it. If this exercise means a lot to us first-year cadets, think how much more it must mean to a senior, and the captain of the ship at that. It's nerves, Marta. Marta replaced the deck plate. Her doubtful expression showed that she was far from satisfied with Jean-Luc's explanation. At last, though, she sighed and muttered, All right, if you say so, but let's remember what Captain Page said, Jean-Luc. We want to be very careful out there. At precisely 0800 10 seconds, Marta reported from her engineering station. Ishtar is under power, Captain. Thank you, engineer. Tabith Ron activated the view screen. The control tower came into focus, with Captain Page standing in the foreground and half a dozen craft controllers visible behind him. Cadet Captain Ron here, docking control. Ishtar ready for departure. We are waiting for clearance. Depart at your discretion, Ishtar, Page responded. Good luck out there. The view screen shimmered, and they saw the rim of the station. Tabith paused for a second and then ordered, Status report, engineer. Marta keyed a readout of the ship's status onto the view screen. Jean-Luc had a replica of it on his own computer readout. His eyes went straight to the fuel load. 53%. Not bad. He might have wished for a little more, but even so, he would use or modify one of the trajectories he had already plotted. Release docking clamps, Tabith ordered. Clamps released, Marta reported. After another momentary pause, Tabith said, Number 1, take us out. Quarter reverse thrusters, Rogers said at once. The Ishtar's impulse engines throbbed to life, and the ship slowly backed out of dock, with a tense-looking Marta at the helm. Without turning, Rogers said, Navigation, give me a course for standard departure orbit. Jean-Luc had anticipated the order, and he instantly returned with a bearing and mark. Helm, set course and engage thrusters at half, Rogers said. Jean-Luc shook his head. Although he knew they were in no danger of colliding with anything, half impulse was a fast speed for leaving dock, though not quite fast enough to call for a reprimand. Roger was testing the boundaries already. Bradbury Station fell to one side in the screen, then the broad red face of Mars itself, craters and mountains and blue rippling rift sea, and then the stars were ahead of them. Standard orbit, Tom Franklin reported. Good. Roger's voice took on an unpleasant edge. Now, Mr. Picard, let's see your trajectory. I've plotted one for 50% fuel. The ship lurched, and Jean-Luc grabbed the console for support. What was that? Tabith asked sharply. Fluctuation in the inertia damping system, Marta reported. I'm on it. Jean-Luc felt as if he were falling. He clenched his teeth to maintain control, but the sensation was exactly as if he were on an elevator that was moving down faster and faster. Gravity's down to 0.8, Marta said, working hard at her console. Now 0.75. We're losing 5% per 7 seconds. Fix it, roared Roger. If you foul this up. Found a junction anomaly, Marta said. I'm routing around it. Gravity is 0.62. The lights flickered and Jean-Luc heard a whine of energy. Then the runaway turbolift began to slow. He felt his weight returning to normal. "Captain," Tom Franklin said, "subspace communications are garbled. I can't establish contact with Bradbury Station." Jean-Luc had also keyed into the ship's computer as he pulled up his navigational trajectories. "Something here, too," he said to Tabathron. "The computer shows that our fuel consumption is running 7% more than predicted." For what seemed like half a minute, Tabathron was quiet. Then she said, "Starfleet is testing us." Roger turned toward Jean-Luc, a grin on his face. "Sure. I should have thought of that. These glitches are built in. We're supposed to solve them ourselves. Mr. Franklin, run communication diagnostics and belay our attempts to hail Bradbury Station until you've isolated the problem. Marta, make sure that our fuel consumption isn't really excessive. And Mr. Picard, lay in a course through the Asteroid Belt. We'll show them what we're made of." "Sure we will," thought Jean-Luc, "particularly if we hit an asteroid. Then what we're made of will be spread out over a couple thousand cubic kilometers of dark, empty space." Chapter 8. Their problems had only begun. Once the artificial gravity was back to normal, the fuel readings began to swing wildly. Subspace communications were still jammed, and the starboard sensor array was working at only half capacity. Tabathron gave increasingly sluggish suggestions, and Roger soon grew frantic. "Let's take the problems one at a time," suggested Jean-Luc. "Now, the fuel sensors are routed through the starboard readout array. If Mr. Franklin can isolate the problem there, then we may find the false readings are just a part of the display malfunction." Roger objected. "But he's on communications." "Which," interrupted Franklin, "aren't doing us any good at all. All subspace communication to Starfleet is down, though I can pick up routine traffic on commercial frequencies. I suggest we follow Mr. Picard's plan." "I don't call it much of a plan," Roger muttered. Marta said, "Well, if you have anything better..." Roger threw his hands up in the air. "That's right, gang up on me. It's not my fault we're running into all this trouble." "It is Starfleet," Tabathron murmured, her voice slow and sleepy. "I think we should do as Mr. Picard suggests." "All right, fine," snapped Roger. Marta asked, "What do you mean, it's Starfleet?" Tabath replied, "They are testing us. They wish to make the exercise as difficult as possible. It is up to us to deal with all the problems." Her head swayed as if she were dizzy. "Are you all right?" Tom Franklin asked, his voice tight with concern. Tabath closed her eyes. "Yes, we must deal with the problems. However, I have another problem. It is not their fault. Mr. Picard, give me a tricorder reading on myself, please." Wondering what was up now, Jean-Luc took a tricorder from the instrument compartment and stood beside Tabathron to run the sensor scan. Since he knew almost nothing about Comoran physiology, the resulting readout made little sense to him. But Tabathron took the device, looked at it, and sighed. "It is what I feared. I should have reported to sickbay 3 days ago, but I thought it was nothing, a minor virus, and I did not wish to miss this exercise." "What's wrong?" Marta asked. "A small ailment," Tabath told her. "Plate fever? Childhood disease that lies latent in all my species. Most of us experience it during our first 10 years of life. Unfortunately, I never had it until now. Perhaps the stress of the mission..." She yawned, showing her double row of sharp teeth. "I apologize to you. I must go dormant until the fever is past. About 20 hours. Good luck. I cannot remain awake much longer." She activated the seat restraints. They would hold her secure no matter what turbulence they encountered. She took several deep breaths, the iridescent sheen of blue and silver on her skin darkening as she did so. "What?" Roger's voice was almost a screech. "You can't be serious!" "You have the con, Mr. Wells," Tabitha said without opening her eyes. "Sorry. I must rest. So sleepy." Her voice trailed off. I've isolated the sensor readout problem," Tom Franklin announced. "It's in the sub-control system routing, not in the sensors themselves, so we should be able to handle it. I'm initiating a repair sequence now." "Navigator, what's our status?" snapped Roger. Jean-Luc consulted his instruments. "I laid in course option 4, he said. "As originally plotted, it would bring us into Voltaire at 2023 hours. However, because we are delayed in going to full impulse, we're going to be late. To be exact, our present ETA is 2241 hours. "More than 2 hours late?" "If we stay on our original course," confirmed Jean-Luc. "It was plotted for a fuel load of 53%. Roger sank into his seat and glared at the sleeping form of Tabitha Ron. "What fuel margin does that leave us? How much will be left over when we arrive?" 15% of a full load, Jean-Luc answered. "We'll cut it closer. We don't need more than 5%. Marta looked up from her engineering station. "That's dangerous, Roger, and with the faulty readouts we've been getting, I can't guarantee that these engines are operating at full capacity. Besides," she hesitated, then looked at Jean-Luc and said in a lower voice, "Besides, I think we should go back to base. If Tabitha Ron is really ill—" "Forget that," said Roger. He glared at all of them. "It's another little Starfleet surprise. Don't you see that? She's in on it." Franklin paused in his work to look around and shake his head. "I don't think so. I've read about Comoran plate fever, and she's shown all the symptoms." "Faked!" growled Roger. "They're throwing everything they can at us. We've got to show we have what it takes. Mr. Picard, plot a new course through the fringes of the asteroid belt. Calculate trajectory with full power to the forward shields factored in. Mr. Franklin, are the sensors online?" "Aye, number 1. With a fierce grin, Roger said, "We'll show them. I want to arrive no later than our original ETA, and I want to deliver a full sensor scan to them." Marta looked troubled still. "At least keep a medical scan on Tabitha." "I've already done so," Jean-Luc reported. "The tricorder says she's in deep sleep, with a slightly elevated temperature and a depressed metabolism." "Keep an eye on her, then," Roger said. "But I want to be on Voltaire Station no later than 2020 hours. He glowered at them all. "Consider that an order." They coped. With one system after another showing a malfunction and unconscious captain, and Roger's increasing irritability, the crew of the Ishtar still somehow coped. 5 hours into the mission, they had almost everything under control. Tom Franklin still had been unable to establish communication with Starfleet, although all of his systems checked out correctly on diagnostics. It was clear that Starfleet simply did not choose to talk with them, and Roger absolutely forbade Franklin to send any hint of a distress signal, any mention of Tabitha's illness. The tricorder readings showed that she was in no real danger, just sound sleep. For nearly half an hour, Jean-Luc hoped they had overcome all the serious difficulties. And then, as they burrowed their way through the outer edge of the asteroid belt, something else happened. Franklin, still working over the communication system, looked up sharply. "Number 1, we're receiving a distress call." "What? Where's the point of origin?" Franklin checked his instruments. "Deep inside the belt." "Here?" Roger asked, his voice raspy with exasperation. "Impossible! What ship would be in the middle of the belt?" "It's coming from an asteroid mining scout ship," Franklin said, and he gave the distressed ship's mark and bearing. Jean-Luc turned from his console. "That's only a few minutes away, deeper in the belt. It's possible something's wrong there." With a disgruntled shrug, Roger snapped, "Put it on screen." The view screen, which had been displaying a star field crossed by tumbling asteroids, shimmered into a static streaked picture of a haggard man. "Calling any vessel within range," he was saying. "We need immediate assistance." "Starfleet training ship Ishtar here," Roger said. "Cadet Roger Wells commanding. What is your trouble?" "Thank God," the man said. "I'm Gene Sayre, assistant mineralogist with the World Mining Commission. My pilot and I are stuck in close orbit around a nickel-iron asteroid. We've had a thruster malfunction, and it will take most of a day to repair. Trouble is, we don't have that kind of time. We've detected a gravitational anomaly coming our way from System North, and we need immediate evacuation." Roger turned to Jean-Luc. "Science officer, can you confirm the anomaly?" Jean-Luc adjusted long-range sensors. He blinked at the incredible readings. "Confirmed," he said. "Something very small with great mass is coming our way at 0.7 light speed. Put that on screen, full mag." They all stared at the screen. Nothing. The starfield, black space, and nothing. Or was that a strange ripple effect? When viewed from outside the atmosphere of a planet, stars do not twinkle. But something made one small group of stars seem to shimmer and dance. "There!" Franklin said, adjusting the screen to put the odd effect in the center. "Gravity waves strong enough to bend light. Something's coming all right, and faster than anything I've ever seen. I'm confirming. Yes, my reading agrees with Mr. Picard's. The object is moving at more than 0.7. They all looked at him. Practically nothing in nature moved at 3/4 the speed of light. Nothing except starships, certain subatomic particles, and... "A black comet," Tom Franklin said. "Don't be ridiculous. There's never been a report of one in this spiral arm," snapped Roger. "Ishtar," repeated Sarah plaintively, and Franklin brought his stressed image back onto the screen. "Our instruments show that the anomaly will pass within 1,000 kilometers of us in 15 minutes. We need your help immediately." "Audio off," Roger growled. Franklin complied. "I don't understand," Marta said. "What's a black comet?" Jean-Luc glanced at her. She was pale with tension. "A black comet is sometimes called a neutron core," he explained. "They're very rare. Starfleet has confirmed only 2, both in the beta quadrant. Those were very small, only a few meters across, but extraordinarily dense, with gravitational fields at least as great as the sun's, and they move in enormous orbits around galactic center, but inclined to the galactic plane." "I thought you were the science officer, not the science teacher," Roger said, his voice dripping sarcasm. "Oh, be quiet, Roger," Franklin said. "Some scientists thought they were small pieces of broken-up neutron stars, but now most people believe they're leftover dense matter from the Big Bang. Anyway, they've got unbelievable gravitational fields. They suck normal matter right into themselves, like black holes." 1,000 kilometers won't be enough, will it?" Jean-Luc asked. Shaking his head, Franklin replied, "At 1,000 kilometers, something with that much mass will rip the asteroid to pieces and the ship. We've got to divert." Jean-Luc nodded. "I agree. We have only 12.5 minutes. If we alter course now, we can barely make it and escape with the 2 miners. It will take all our power." "What do you mean, all our power?" demanded Roger. His face was flushed, his fists balled. "We won't have sufficient fuel to make the Voltaire rendezvous," Jean-Luc explained. "We'll have just enough for life support for 3 days, but Starfleet will come looking for us." "No!" Roger pounded the arm of his seat. "No! It's just a test. There's no anomaly. They've rigged our sensors to give us a false reading. We'll maintain course." Marta said, "Roger, I agree with Jean-Luc. What if it's not a test? If we fail to respond to a real distress call, we're washed up as far as Starfleet goes. We couldn't even get jobs as merchant spacers." Roger snarled, All right, let them call Starfleet." "And no time," Franklin said. "By the time a Starfleet vessel could penetrate the belt this far, it wouldn't matter. They'd be dead. And anyway, the gravity waves are interfering with subspace communications. I doubt that Starfleet could even hear them." Then divert," Roger said. "No, wait. Maintain course, or we could..." He looked at the others, doubt and fear in his eyes. You know what they're doing to us with all these emergencies. It's a Kobayashi Maru all over again. Jean-Luc felt a moment of doubt. Every Academy cadet knew of the legendary Kobayashi Maru scenario, a training exercise in which nothing a cadet did could succeed. Could it be? Possibly, but if it wasn't, we have only 10 minutes left, Jean-Luc said. Do something, Jean-Luc, Marta said. Give the word and I'll change course. Shut up, Roger shouted. That's mutiny. Jean-Luc looked at him. Roger was sweating, his eyes darting frantically. Roger was right. For Jean-Luc to assume command, or even the upperclassmen Tom Franklin, they all would have to mutiny against Roger's authority, breaking one of the oldest laws of the service. If this were just a test, that was a step that could well mean the end of their Starfleet dreams. But against that stood 2 lives in danger. What to do? Jean-Luc had no time to think, but he had to make a decision. What to do?